Hey, I'm gonna start off with two complaints as we do the postgame show. Taylor Corn and Jim Dunaway. One, if you're a UCF and Arizona fan, I'd said earlier today after we did our Auburn show, I said we'll be on right after 9 o'clock tonight. Game won't end in 2 hours. 9:56. It almost was a 3 hour basketball game. They called 57 fouls. But here's my problem. They had to call 57 fouls because there was 104 of them in the game. I mean, there's fouls everywhere. I hate the way they let the players at Tennessee and the players at Texas A&M play basketball. It's just not basketball. You've got to wear a mouthpiece and a cup and anything else to protect yourself to where you don't lose valuable parts. I mean, my God, it's just not basketball. And every SEC team experiences it. I know Auburn does when they go to Knoxville. Kentucky does when they go to Knoxville. College Station is just Knoxville West, and they let them play that bully basketball. It's amazing because of free throws that the game ended up 94-88. It felt like it was a 66-64 game, to be honest with you, Taylor. Taylor Corn, Jim Dunaway, post show, Alabama wins it. It's never easy in College Station, man.
Yeah, the free throw shooting was atrocious. I mean,
That's
Texas A&M shot 58%. Not great. They shot 48. They missed 20 free throws. Alabama missed 13. Like, everything about it, but it was one of those games that seems like it has a hard time getting into a flow or any rhythm because every 25 seconds plays being stopped for someone to shoot free throws.
oh, it is the worst kind of basketball for me. Um, somewhere between that and what the NBA is, that's the good basketball, right? The NBA is too free flowing. They don't play good enough defense until the playoffs. Um, that just wasn't good defenses at times. So my problem becomes with this, and I'd love to know what the chat room thinks, is that one foul that you call isn't consistent with another foul, right? You can't,
Yep.
because you can't call them all. So you call one foul, and then a little bit later on, somebody will rake their hand across somebody's face and it won't get called. And you're like, well, wait, or you get knocked off the ball and you lose the ball out of bounds. You're like, wait, the reason I lost the ball out of bounds is because he knocked me out of bounds. And they're
Right.
like, sorry, can't call another one. We've already called six in the last 2 minutes. So I don't know. It's hard. Alabama wins it 94-88. Tough win. I'll ask you first off, when you talk about bench having depth, this is what it looks like for Alabama, I think.
Yeah, for sure, especially in the end. I can't remember at what time in the second half it was, but I mean, Alabama ended the game with Mo Diabate and Grant Nelson fouling out. Grant was closer to the end of the game. And then they had three other guys, Cliff Amori, Youngblood, and Sherelle, that had four fouls. And that's the majority of their big guys. So about halfway through the second half, that was my concern for Alabama was their size. A lot of their big guys are in foul trouble. Who do you keep on the court? Who do you sit until there's less time left? Because, they've only got one foul left to burn. But I mean, they seemed to handle it as well as they could have, considering all things.
Yeah, considering Grant Nelson got his second foul with 13 minutes to go in the first half, and then had to spend a long time on the bench. We'll get to your comments in just a second. This is the basketball show. We do it live after Alabama, after Auburn games throughout the year. Sometimes it's a combined show if their games are close together, but it's two shows when Auburn tips at 12 noon and Alabama tips at 7 at night. Um, we will talk at the end about Janai Broom. We covered that really, really in depth in the Auburn post game show earlier. If you want to go back and watch that, not a whole lot has changed on that. But my first point on this game, Taylor, is that at different points of the game, somebody who's not Mark Sears, Mark had his and was huge throughout the game, but at different points through the game, somebody who was not Mark Sears stepped up and had a good little 2 minute, 3 minute spurt at scoring the basketball. At one point, it was Youngblood who hit a three and they got a 3 point play. Early on, Stevenson, who we talked about in our basketball show podcast this week, had an early three and he played great defense tonight. At one point, Aiden Sherrill, Aiden was unbelievable tonight. I thought he brought a lot excuse me, no, I'm sorry. Aiden Holloway was so good tonight.
Yep.
6 of 10, 3 of 6 from 3 points. At one point, he was carrying the offense, big baskets there. Um, I just believe that tonight is where that depth showed up. Phylon didn't have his great offensive game, but there were other people to step up. And just in little spurts, Reed had a couple of good big buckets at certain times. I think tonight, for me, was the best win where Alabama flexed their depth the most.
Yeah, and I think it's very comforting to see if one guy, and we've talked about this with a couple of different teams in the SEC, you're not fully reliant on one guy. Did Mark Sears have an incredible night? Yeah, he did. But you weren't fully reliant on, and Austin is saying, no, Sears is why we won. But I mean, like you were just saying, there were other guys that stepped up when you were going through a little bit of a dry spell shooting wise. Greg says an ugly win is better than a pretty loss every time. There was another comment that I wanted to hit on. Uh, give them credit for a great win on the road against a top 10 team. Take an ugly victory every day. And then there was one more that I wanted to pull up along the same lines of top 10 road wins are hard to come by from James.
Ooh.
And I think that that's kind of become a common theme throughout the first, I mean, they've only played 3 conference games, but throughout the first 3 conference games is if you walk away with a win, a win's a win's a win. And I've said that time and time again, but that's what it is, because wins on the road throughout conference play are not going to be easy to come by, as a lot of people are saying in the chat. So you take them where you can get them.
Yes. A win's a win. I'm not, please don't get me wrong. I'm talking about how you have to win in Knoxville and
Yeah.
the way you have to win in College Station is why I was complaining about the style of play there. In this league, anywhere, a win is a win. I agree with you guys 100%. A lot to get to here. Remember, our shows are always brought to you by Roback.com. Promo code TNR20 gets you 20% off any of your gear. Great team gear there, Alabama and Auburn gear there for you as well. And also at mybookie.ag. You said Mark Sears had a great night. He did 27 points. Did you know he did not get his first point, though, until 6 minutes and 30 seconds left in the first half? I mean,
Yep.
he almost went 14 minutes without a point in the first half and still ended up with 27. That was some good basketball.
Absolutely. And I believe that was his 10th 20-plus point game of the season. They've only played 15, or I think 15 or 14.
Great delivery by you. I love that pause. And then they've only played 15.
Yeah, that's
We
his.
talked about it on the show earlier this week,
Yeah.
how it compares to last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Which that's an incredible stat. At any point in this, like, later on in the season, that would still be very impressive. But the fact that he hasn't scored 20 points in a single digit number of games is wild, is absolutely insane. James says these tough preseason games are showing up now. And I think that that's something that has been in conversation a lot when it comes to Nate Oats in Alabama and how much success he's had with this program is playing non-conference games. It pays off. Playing tough non-conference games plays off once you get to conference play, because it's every night's not a cakewalk. You've been challenged some already. You might drop a game or two because you're playing such tough opponents voluntarily in the non-conference schedule, but it does pay off once conference play comes around.
We talked about missed free throws, and Alabama missed 13 more tonight, but they shot 40 of them. They hit 27. If you were just a little bit better with the free throw percentage, 67% as a team tonight, this game wouldn't have been close. Same way for Texas A&M. You mentioned it earlier. They missed 28 of 48 for them. And to me, they should be better at shooting free throws because they played this style of basketball every night.
Yeah.
I don't understand um, how when you play this style, you are not a better free throw shooting team because you absolutely end up having to play these free throws. Okay, a couple other things here before we get all into the chat and answer some of their questions. 23 top 25 wins now for Nate Oats at Alabama. So he's been very good in that category. And I thought tonight, the way Nate Oates managed the bench, there have been times throughout the season I've been like, man, it feels like so and so is just getting hot. Why are we going to pull him out of the game right now? But tonight he was a maestro of substitution, when to put in, when to pull out. Just an amazing night by that Alabama coaching staff, having the right person at the right time in that game to lead the second half and win the thing 94-88. They led by 15 at one point, and it got close at the end. It became a contested game and ended up winning it by 6. I thought that coaching staff did a fantastic job tonight.
Yeah, and it's impressive too because it gets tricky when you have so many guys in foul trouble, like we talked about at the beginning of the show. It gets tricky, and I'm sure they're preparing. They're preparing for any situation. Coaching staffs are, but that does make things a little trickier, especially when 4 out of 5 guys that you have on the court are small, relatively speaking.
Yeah, you played from 13:30 on with everybody in foul trouble, and you were going to have a problem there if you didn't pull all the right strings down the stretch there. So Alabama gets to win. They're now 14-2 on the year, 3-0 in the SEC. Mississippi State lost. They were unbeaten in the SEC, right? So we're down to 3 unbeaten teams in the SEC: Auburn, Alabama, and
Ole
Ole
Miss.
Miss. Ole
Yep.
Miss. And I think it's Ole Miss and Alabama this week at Coleman.
Yeah, I believe that game is on
Yeah, I think it's the midweek game, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's on Tuesday. This
Yeah,
Tuesday, Ole Miss comes to Alabama, then Alabama goes to Kentucky on Saturday, a week
yeah.
from today.
Well, it's good to have that SEC schedule, right? Come off a top 10 game on the road at Texas A&M where you did nothing but playing a bloodbath, and now you
Right.
get one of only 2 other SEC teams beside yourself unbeaten. You get them at home. Chris Beard's teams always play defense, and then you go on the road to Rupp Arena where you never get a call at Rupp Arena, and that Kentucky team just beat the monsters that are Mississippi State 95-90 at the Hump in Starkville. So a tough week ahead for Alabama. Let's get into the chat room and see what everybody's saying over there in the comments here. As you're starting to pull some up, I will tell you earlier today, Tennessee bounces back from the big bad loss at Florida, beating Texas 74-70. Florida beat Arkansas 71-63. So Arkansas is our underachieving team. They're now 0-3 in the SEC. Georgia
Hmm.
beat Oklahoma at home. Oklahoma's 0-3, surprising after being unbeaten starting league play. Missouri beat Vandy at home 75-66. Ole Miss beat LSU at home 77-65. I told you Kentucky beat Mississippi State 95-90. And Auburn, the show we covered earlier, got their 8th straight win, beating South Carolina on the road 66-63. Janai Broome, that left ankle injury, as we reported on the show earlier, he'll have an MRI back at Auburn to check for additional ligament damage and such. And then we'll know more tomorrow or Sunday or Monday about Janai Broome and how long he'll be out for the Auburn Tigers. But Alabama a winner tonight over Texas A&M 94-88. What's the chat got for us tonight?
Let's see. There's a lot of negative talk about officiating, which we've discussed some.
Right. It's just that
Pat,
style of play, little T. You just can't. Yeah, I know you say, well, you can call all the fouls and they'll stop playing that way. I believe that too, but for some reason they don't, and they let Rick Barnes's team play that way at Tennessee. That's why when you get Tennessee and Gainesville, they lose by 30, but you get Tennessee and Knoxville, it's hard as hell to beat them. It's
yeah.
that simple. That simple. Remember that
Uh,
year? It was I don't know if it was last year or the year before last when Auburn was there, and I mean it was a bloodbath. And then
and
Auburn was shooting at the end of the game, and the guy got just completely clipped trying to hit a game winner, and there was no call. No call. It's that way for
yeah.
everybody who goes in there.
And it just makes the games unenjoyable to watch as a viewer because there's no flow, plays stopping frequently, and the game lasted 3 hours. And this is also something that we've discussed, but Walker said, please talk about how ESPN has these games at 2 hour windows. We talked about this on our first post game show after, I
Yeah,
cannot remember, it was after the Alabama game last Saturday, I believe.
yeah. It was Alabama,
And
Oklahoma. You had been in Auburn, and
yeah,
we were going to do the Auburn show while Alabama was about to start, and then Alabama had started and gone through two TV timeouts before the Auburn game ended, and you were like, "Let's just
Right.
wait and do it after. We'll just do one show afterwards," because it went like 30 minutes long.
Exactly, and because of all the talent that's in the conference this season, there are so many competitive and exciting games. People wanna watch every game. There are a lot of people like, I enjoy watching all the games, whether Alabama or Auburn are playing or not. They're fun to watch because they are so competitive, and there's not one team that's just beating the brakes off of everybody. And you can't. No game is lasting exactly 2 hours.
Yeah, but there is a difference to me from 2 hours and 10 minutes to 2 hours and 56 minutes, like this
Oh,
one
yeah.
tonight.
Tonight was
It's
outrageous. Tonight was
Yeah,
outrageous, but either way, it's it's not enough time. And, I think it was I keep lo oh, yeah. A landmine believer, ESPN has gotta make their windows 2 hours and 30 minutes. 2 hours isn't enough and too many games starting on other networks. And sometimes it's not made very, it's not easy to find where another game might be starting. Most of the time, I feel like they're on ESPN News,
yeah,
but it'll say, Alabama versus Texas A&M starting soon, and you'll hit on it, and then it'll be, whatever game hasn't ended yet, and then whatever channel it's starting on says like darts contest, darts world championship. I don't know, something random. So it's nothing about it is easy for a viewer, audience
yeah,
member.
yeah. My dad, he's at home. I'm old. He's older than me, and mom's texting me. Dad wants to know where the Alabama game is, and I was like,
Yeah,
read the yellow box in the corner. It's on ESPN
yeah,
News right now. It says darts is on there. You got to click on darts. It's not darts when you click on it. It's Alabama.
right,
And then when you get into that, at some point you got to go back to ESPN because it's going to go back to darts in just a second. It is an asinine way of doing things, but um, I guess they're okay with you missing the first 4 minutes, 5 minutes, or as UCF and Arizona did after the Alabama game. If you're a UCF Arizona fan, you missed 17 minutes and 19 seconds of your game. That's crazy. Almost the whole
um
first half.
I don't know if you've seen this. I know that you try and keep up with what's happening in post-game press conferences as we're live. But Landmine Believer said Nate with maybe a shot at Broom post-game. Don't think he meant it, but it doesn't read well. Have you seen anything about comments he's made?
I have not yet, but I will pull it up.
I have not either, but I uh found that interesting. Let's see. Um Yeah, the worst is when the game is on SEC Plus, which I don't have. That is, yeah, if it's being broadcast on, ESPN, ESPN2, SEC Network, whatever the typical non um paywall uh channels are, and then they started on behind a paywall, that's not great either.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I see the
There
comment everybody's talking about right now. Okay. And I know Nate Oates,
yeah,
and he's not afraid to take pointed shots at people. I don't think he meant it this way, though, the way this is can be played. Okay.
yeah.
And again, I'm getting this um, from people who cover Alabama and Texas A&M. This is Jack Knowlton of Tide Illustrated. He's a Missouri guy, so Missouri journalism. Shout out to him. Quote: A lot of guys would have just set that one out after they rolled their ankle and did not man up like he did.
Oh,
Now that does come off, on a day where Jani Broom, rolled his ankle and did not come back in. But obviously, again, I know Nate Oates. I would say he meant that as it is easy when you have that injury. And you and I talked about it earlier. You even sent me a picture in soccer. There is a lot of pain with that. And a lot of people will go and sit on the end of the bench and not come back in. I do not think he would be referencing somebody who could be missing weeks or months of the season. That could be a much serious injury than just what is usually an ankle roll that can be taped and you try to fight your way back into the game. But I'm not in his head, so I'm not gonna say he didn't intentionally say that because he will intentionally take shots at times. But I don't think that would have been intentionally at at Janai Broom, but it does not, at least the way that plays there with a snippet of the quote. I didn't see the whole quote yet because we've been on this whole time doing this.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying not a shot at Broom, not a shot at Broom. No way he was even watching that game, which I mean, every single game it was being talked about and replayed. I was like, all right, this is a little bit of overkill. But I agree. I think that that was probably stated as more of a compliment to Cliff, just saying,
Yes.
he tweaked his ankle. They checked it out. They realized that everything was fine. And he's complimenting his willingness, desire to go back in and finish the game. I don't know what benefit would come from him taking a shot at Janai, and I don't think that that's what he was doing because that's not. I just don't see him doing that. That just wouldn't be. That would be kind of a
No.
low blow to a guy that's, you know, a contender for National Player of the Year. I don't see him doing that either. I know it's a rivalry, and this probably will be taken out of context on social media because that's what happens. But I feel like it was just a compliment to Cliff, saying,
Yeah.
props to him for getting back out there after an injury, after a scare.
Yeah. But Nate has taken pointed shots at programs in the past, and specifically with Aiden Holloway coming to Alabama when Aiden has played well, he has said multiple things that I think are intentional to throw out there because of the rivalry that is Auburn and Alabama. But I really think Nate and Bruce and Steven like each other. I may be wrong about that, but I've always thought they get along. But I won't get into that. I will tell you though that out of context, it's easy to take that and put that under the Janai Broom injury, but I think you nailed it on the head right there, that it's more of just talking about Cliff's toughness, the
Yeah.
old the old blue collar hard hat attitude of getting up and going back to work. Speaking of the hard hat award, our guy Jarin Stevenson, we had to answer a couple of questions from our chat room last week. Why is Stevenson starting? Why is Stevenson started? Jarin Stevenson wins the hard hat award tonight in a hard hat game at Texas A&M. I think tonight is why you saw, forget point total, you saw why Jaron Stevenson continues to play on this team with a high quality of minutes.
Yeah, yeah, and there were a lot of people questioning the decision by the coaching staff to roll him out there to start the games, but I would, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that he scored the first 5 points of the game, and that was the first thought that came to my mind was people were there were a lot of questions around him, and rightfully so because his offensive production hasn't been great, but good for him. I mean, good for him. I'm sure that that's a little bit of a boost of confidence, and defensively, whoa, I don't know, my phone is freaking out right now. Sorry, I don't know if
It's
things
okay.
are being clicked right now. I don't really know what's happening. Um, but yeah, he had a good performance. Sorry, I don't know what just happened.
That's okay. Here's more on that quote from Potter, our friend Charlie Potter. Um, a lot of guys would have just set that one out after they rolled their ankle like he did. He manned up, wanted to play, wanted to be there for his teammates. He ends up with 10 rebounds in 16 minutes. You can't say enough about that. So that's more of a complete
Yeah,
quote there.
I mean
So,
that he's going to get asked about that. That's something that's obviously going to be brought up post game after something like that happens. Um, and people are going to read if it was people wouldn't I don't think would be reading into that if it was a player from a team not named Auburn. I think that people will make more of that than it really is because it's their rival, it's the in-state rival, and people will create narratives about what they want to be true. Again, I don't believe that he was taking a shot at anyone. I think that he was complimenting Cliff, toughness, willingness, desire to play the rest of the game. But I mean, I'm sure it'll be blown out of proportion as a lot of things are on social media. And JF makes a great point. Nate talks smack and makes jabs, even with guys he's friends with, like Hurley, but he has never taken a shot about a guy's injury. Which, yeah, I don't see him doing that,
yeah,
and I don't think he was.
I just checked the three people I go to for Auburn information,
Mhm.
including our buddy Zach Blackerby and Kyle Rush at thebarnauburn.com. Nobody's reacting over there to that comment yet. So at least right now, nobody is taking it uh,
Yeah, which is good.
out of context yet.
Yeah,
All
which is
right,
good.
back to the game, into the chat room. Find me some more stuff in there that are good. I want to point out a couple of other things from the stat sheet. Nate Oates is really good, and he brought this up. No matter who you're playing, no matter, I mean, it could be against the Dream Team, right? The '92 Dream Team. He's going to find something that doesn't work into the math problem of his brain, and he is like, yeah, hard fought game, good win, top 10 team on the road, blah 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 blah. We still give up 32 second chance points, though.
Well, which I think is good. I think it's good to have things to be hard on your team about, especially this early in the season. You don't want to be 100% pleased all the time. You don't want to get too comfortable or get complacent. So I think that that's probably a good thing to have things to be nitpicky about. Ryan Fowler, Aiden to me is becoming a difference maker. Looks like a right cell roll off the bench from last year. And one thing I will say about Aiden, um, even last year, he was very good at distributing the basketball. His shot has been a lot better this year. He shot very well during Auburn's non-conference schedule last year. And once SEC play started, he kind of fell off a little bit shooting. His shot, I mean, he's hitting massive shots right now, and he is very good at distributing the basketball. He's super quick.
He is, and he can slice into the defense because he's so quick with the dribble. I loved his game at Auburn for that reason, even though he missed a
Hmm.
lot of shots. It seems like when he makes an early shot, that helps his confidence, like we saw
Yeah.
at the South Dakota State game, and then we just saw it tonight when he came in and he drained that first one. I was like, okay, this could be a good thing, and it ended up being a good thing. Another good thing for both of these teams tonight: Texas A&M had 23 offensive rebounds, Alabama had 24 offensive rebounds. Both teams hit the boards well. Alabama scored 15 off of turnovers. But here's something that I didn't think Auburn did a great job with earlier today in their win at South Carolina, because that was 66-63. And even before Broome got hurt, I didn't feel like Auburn was playing at the same pace with the same energy churn of movement and fast break pace that they usually do. I thought they played sort of a blah game against South Carolina even before the Broome injury, and they weren't running the court. They weren't scoring a lot of fast break points. In this Mall Fest tonight, Alabama still scored 22 fast break points, so they still tried to dictate the pace a little bit tonight, which I think is so important when you're on the road in this league, one, and two, when the other team's trying to keep you from playing the way you want to play. And Auburn got the win without Janai for most of the second half and without really playing at their pace. And then Alabama still, they scored three more than their average number of points tonight, with 94 in a game in a place that usually is not up tempo basketball. So I would know another check mark for the Alabama team tonight for playing with great pace, even when the other guys were going to slow it down.
Facts of matter. Youngblood, Phylon, and Holloway with Sears is unstoppable. I love LeBaron. I have said multiple times that he's my favorite player on this team. I just think he's so entertaining to watch. But yeah, I mean, they have a lot of guys that can shoot the basketball. And someone also said, okay, good question that I'll hit next. Um, Someone started talking about, I believe it was Youngblood. Yeah, Youngblood is starting to heat up 50% from three and 3 of 3 from the free throw line, which finding a
Yes.
player that was 100% from the free throw line. I think he might have been the only one, honestly. There were
Yeah.
so many missed free throws tonight.
Well, he
Yeah, he
was,
was the only one.
yeah, not a lot of not a lot of 100 percenters from the free throw line. He's
Mm-mm.
spot on Youngblood. Played 18 minutes tonight and ends up with 14 points, but also 5 rebounds and 1 assist. He had 4 fouls, which means to me you got to foul a little bit. I mean, you got to be playing defense some, right? If you got 0 fouls, I just don't think you're trying at that point. You're not playing good enough defense at that point. Um, I look at the times tonight. Mark Sears played 36. That's last year Mark Sears minutes,
Yeah, yeah.
36 minutes tonight, and they needed him on the floor. Again, he didn't score a point until 6:30. But everybody else, Stevenson with 23, that's up a little bit. Nelson with 27 tonight. Phylon with only 26 minutes tonight, and he was 3 of 10 from the field, 1 of 5 for three, and only 8 points by Phylon standards. That's down a little bit, and you still win the basketball game. So such a team win. I started off by saying they flexed their depth muscle tonight, and I thought that was a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. There was a good. Okay, Sam, do y'all think that Bama? Wait, no, that was not. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, here we go. In hindsight, do we believe that we upgraded from the Rylan Griffin transfer, which I think is a great question.
Ooh, yes. That is a great question. Yes. And he was when he left, it broke my heart because
Yeah, I loved him.
he was one of my favorite Alabama players last year in that run. Now you can't tell by today's game, right? Because it was a awkward game, Kansas on the road at Cincinnati, where Cincinnati actually was the favorite team, the betting line. And that game ended up, this is gonna before you, Taylor, before you were born, this was the way basketball scores looked. Kansas 54, Cincinnati 40. This game would have fit right into the 1970s of basketball, right? If 54-40, we have a shot clock. We can run, we can jump out of gyms now. We have the best shoes in the world,
Right.
made by other people around the world. But 54-40, Kansas beat Cincinnati as an underdog today. Ryland only played 14 minutes today, and he got 2 points, 1 of 4, 0 and 2 from three. Now, he had been contributing a lot more. He is averaging 7 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist a game right now. But who would he replace right now? Who
No
would he
one.
who would he who would you look down the bench and say, okay, Rylan Griffin, I'm putting you in before I put in um well, let's see, you start Sears, you start Nelson, you start Amore, you start Stevenson, and who's the fifth starter usually? Is it Phylon now? Is
Yeah,
it Phylon
Phylon
now?
starts.
Okay, so am I gonna put Rylan Griffin in before Aiden Holloway? No,
No, not right
no.
now. Not with the way he's playing right now. No,
Yeah. Am I gonna put Rylan Griffin in before Youngblood? I don't think I would.
no. And I
No.
think one. Wait,
Not going
sorry.
to put him in
Continue.
front of McDonald All-American freshman Darian Reed either.
Nope.
I mean, I'm not sure where I'm not sure where he would fit on the team.
I don't. I mean, on the bench somewhere and far
Yeah,
down it too.
yeah,
And one thing about Youngblood is I think that people also need to remember that he is coming off the injury. I think he was out all of preseason. He was in a boot on a scooter. And I can't remember when exactly he was back to fully healthy, but he is still probably getting comfortable on his ankle, if I had to guess.
yeah. I think it was South Dakota State game, something like that. One of those games right around then, right before conference play started, is when he first played, and he just talked to Chris Stewart last week on Tide Talk about not being back in game shape yet. And you talked about playing a running sport like soccer. When you're injured and you can't run like you do in a
Yeah.
game, it takes you a while to get back to be able to run all the running you got to do in basketball and soccer. So he gets better and better the more game shape he gets into, and he's got a role. Is anybody saying who he'd play in front of in the chat room there?
Um,
I don't know where Rylan Griffin would fit on this team, and I liked Sam Walters too when he went to
yeah,
Michigan. I don't know
Michigan.
where Sam. I don't think Sam could get on the floor with this team.
Hunter Hall said Ryland wouldn't average 5 minutes on this team. Um, Griffin could take some Diabate minutes, but that's about it.
Yeah, but see, Diabate is a defensive specialist. He's coming in to steal somebody's lunch money. That's why Diabate's in the game. He's not in there for anything offense. If he gives you offensive moments, that is gravy. He's in there to steal your lunch money, to get
Yeah.
inside your pocket and not let you breathe. That's why Diabate comes in the game. And Rylan Griffin ain't that dude. He ain't that guy.
Mm-mm.
He's going to
No.
be a perimeter guy. He's going to be a perimeter guy. So, and Sam Walters, he did the best he could defensively last year, and Ryland did too. Both of those guys are in Alabama legends because they got them to the Final Four, and they played their asses off in that NCAA tournament to get them to the Final Four. Both of those kids did. Ryland had big moments. Sam had big moments. Amazing, but they wouldn't fit in this team, and I think that's why you see one at Kansas and one at Michigan is they were told that I don't know how you're going to fit into this team. But I don't think you can compare. Byline was committed to Kansas, and Griffin went there. Byline came to Alabama. In sports, Kansas wouldn't have made that trade. Alabama was lucky to be the final landing spot for possibly a one and done guy in Byline, who committed to Auburn, then to Kansas, eventually landed at Alabama. And Ryland Griffin was just a guy that was moving. Probably had a pretty good NIL offer after the run in the tournament, but probably was also shown, I don't know where your minutes are going to come next year. This team's going to be a little different.
Right. This is a question that I have for you. Someone said that he would start before Houston Millette, and I saw something. I believe he had some knee issues. He was initially supposed to redshirt, and then once Latrell got hurt, they were saying that they were going to pull his red shirt because they needed him now that Reitzel was out for the remainder of the year. But I saw something recently about potential talk of redshirting him because of, I think, a knee issue from the past that was maybe just lingering and continuing to bother him.
Okay, let me explain to. I hate myself for not bringing this up on the next round or one of our basketball show podcasts, because I had it written in my notes all last week, because I had started to hear that with everyone sort of healthy now and back, and young blood back, and everybody's found a role without Wrightsell, Millette's minutes have gone down, and you want a redshirt him.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, the best way to secure a red shirt would be an injury. And a guy, he can't play the rest of the year because of an injury, and then the NCAA, oh, he only played this many minutes, had the injury. Okay, let's give him another year. Right
yeah,
there, the injury allows them to be looked more favorably on by the NCAA. And I meant to bring it up last week. Watch for an injury from Millette that could cost him the rest of the season, which would help them get that year back.
makes sense.
And not that they're scamming the system, because he probably does have something that needs to be cleaned up, right? And but that's just smart roster management. And especially if his minutes were going to be down to 4 or 5 minutes a game. When he's in, he's helped the team out a lot. That tells me, though, that they have found in the rotation, with everybody healthy here, barring another injury, but they could happen at any time, that they'd like Millette not to burn the whole season now, and be able to come back next year and be part of that team next year.
This, I lost the comment, but there was a question posed by, I cannot remember who. I'm sorry, but the question that was asked was, is Alabama the deepest team in the country, not just the SEC, but in the country? And I think that that's a very interesting topic. And there are numbers that we can look at, not right now, but maybe we could do this tomorrow on our recorded show. Statistically, I mean, yeah, they're insanely deep. I'm not going to go out and say that they're the deepest team in the country without looking at other teams and numbers and stuff, but I would have to believe that they're one of the deepest.
Well, I mean, I would first say, are they deeper than Auburn? Because to me, both of the strengths of both of these teams before the Broom injury was the team depth.
Yeah.
Because you could go to the bench at Auburn 3, 4, 5 deep, and really not lose a lot from what was in there. Same thing um, at Alabama. Now, Mark Sears is going to play 36. Janai, when he's healthy, is going to play 36. But you have other guys that you can flow in for the other people, and it not be too different. Outside of that, you got to start making some cases for me that somebody is as good as Alabama and Auburn, and as deep as. I mean, you probably got some teams that have got 10 guys who are about the same, that are going to finish up 20 and 10, right? And make
Hmm.
the NCAA tournament. But that doesn't mean they're as deep as Alabama and Auburn, because Alabama and Auburn they're good, they're great, and they're deep, and their depth is good and great. So I would, without looking, I would say Alabama and Auburn are the two deepest teams in the country in comparison to quality of depth. Yes.
Yeah. I would agree. I would
And I'll
agree.
do that with no facts, like I'm running for president. Just I'm going to say it, and you guys all go fact check me, and prove me wrong.
um, Smuff, Alabama's already lost a starter, and you're still saying this is an argument about most depth. Think about how nuts that is, which is crazy because Latrell Wright was an impact player. You know, he wasn't the
100%.
seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th guy coming off your bench. He had a big role on this team.
Oh
So to
yeah,
be
man.
able to argue this not really narrative. I mean, it's a true statement, but to be able to argue that with a lot of evidence with him being out for the season is crazy, and that's a good
Yeah,
point.
no, no, no. That's 100% true. It's a true statement. He, whether he's going to be a starter all year or first guy off the bench, he was very much in the rotation. Big offensive scorer. So yeah, absolutely. It just adds to the Alabama depth that they would have had if he was out there playing.
Hunter says Alabama's deeper than Auburn, but it's close.
Kept saying
Everyone,
it wasn't because of my upbringing. I said Alabama and Auburn, Alabama and Auburn. I kept saying that in that order for a reason. I do think Alabama's a little deeper than Auburn, um, but
that's fine.
no, I was
Don't
reading a
hold.
text I got. Um, Alabama's also redshirting top 75 recruit Nas Cunningham. They're not
But
going
I
to play him
forgot
this
about
year.
him.
Yeah. So how about
I
that? A top
completely forgot
75
about
player.
him.
Yeah. Not even playing. He's on, you see him on the bench sometimes, and you'll see him in the gym if you make it by during when they're working out, but he is redshirting all year too. So got to have somebody next year, man. Got to plan for the 25-26 season.
Yeah. And he's got a lot to learn from the guys that he's watching play right now. JF, if Sears scores 0 points in a game against a decent team, Alabama is likely still winning because they have so many guys who can make up for it. I don't think you could say the same for Broome and Auburn. Going back to just the first part, not the Auburn comparison, but the first part of this, that happened this season when
That's right.
Sears scored in Birmingham and they did win.
Yeah. Against Illinois, who was number 11 until they got beat by USC tonight.
Hmm.
Which was a bad home court loss for Illinois, which in the crazy scheme of things will hurt Alabama's KenPom number somehow. Um, but I think the win on the road against top 10 team will help it more than Illinois losing will hurt it. But that's why it's a long season of math problems if you watch the net and the KenPom. But yeah, Alabama's already done that with zero. Um, you don't want to live life without Mark Sears or Janai Broome though. If you're Alabama
No.
and Auburn, uh, everything still sort of runs through them. They're sort of the heartbeat of the team, and you want them. You know, you want Sears to stay healthy, and you want Broome to get back as soon as possible.
Bama, JT2, this team's chemistry is really coming together. Different combos on the floor. Agree? Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
think so. And I think that that's a natural thing that occurs as the season rolls on because you're going to be playing with different guys every year, whether it's guys that you pick up in the transfer portal, high school guys, or whatever it might be. It's going to take a little time to gel.
yeah. But T, we talked about it leading into the season that how is he going to make all these superstars happy? He had
Right.
13 players that were either starters for him or starters from somewhere else that have come in here.
Hmm.
When Holloway was coming over from Auburn, we were like, he's coming to be on the bench.
Yeah.
How is he going to be happy with that? But I agree with the poster right there 100% that the chemistry of this team seems to be really good. Like they seem to be really enjoying the other people's success. And that's when you really have got something special. Now you've won 8 straight games in a row. It's easier to sit on the bench and play limited minutes
When you're
when
winning.
you're winning, you know, and when you're getting yours. But as I said, when I looked at the sheet tonight, you're looking at, I mean, if you're playing in the 20s of minutes, you know, you're playing a half of basketball. And that's
Yeah.
not bad. That's not a bad minute limit, right? So you had
Mm-mm.
Stevenson with 23, Nelson with 27. That number would have usually been up. He was in foul trouble, 26 with Bylon. Mark had 36. Now 15 for Reed, 15 from Diabate, 18 from Youngblood, 18 from Holloway. But look what you got, man. 18 minutes from Holloway. He scored 15 points tonight. 18 minutes from Youngblood. He scored 14 points tonight. I mean, your plus minus in that time, and that's through the roof. The way you're playing limited minutes, and you're just jumping out there and being positive when you're out there. Reed, 15 minutes, 11 points. So less than 20 minutes for three of those guys. They all went double figures against a great defensive team in Texas A&M.
Yeah, and Sam asked, what was the bench scoring tonight? Alabama's bench had 40 points, and Texas A&M's had 31. So
Yeah.
a little less than half of Alabama's points came
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
bench.
And we should point out Texas A&M didn't have their leading scorer. They'd just gone on the road, beat Oklahoma without their leading scorer, coming back from 18. They were down 15 and almost came back against Alabama, but they didn't have their leading scorer tonight. So could have been a different game if they had, their kid that was on the bench there missed 2 games now if he'd been back. So injuries are part of it, and sometimes it benefits you. But Alabama wins it 94-88 at Texas A&M. So let's look ahead real quickly before we
Okay.
get out of here. Let's do Alabama first. 14-2, currently number 23, Ole Miss in Tuscaloosa, number 5, 14-2. Alabama could move up. We don't know. That'll be 6 o'clock, early start, ESPNU in Tuscaloosa. And both those teams are unbeaten in the SEC right now. It should be a fun game.
Yeah, it should be a very fun game. And this, I'm interested to see what the rankings will be on Monday afternoon around lunchtime. The new AP poll will come out. And I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised. I believe Alabama's number 5 right now. I would not be surprised if we saw them jump up. They had 2 road wins, won by a very large margin on Wednesday night. And then tonight, I mean, they had control of the game. Things got a little bit closer at the end of the game, but I personally felt like they were in control. I feel like Alabama should beat Ole Miss at home. I think that they will beat Ole Miss at home, and then on the road at Kentucky it's going to be a hostile environment, and winning on the road is hard.
Yeah, right now on KenPom updates it live.
Mm-hmm.
Auburn is 1 in KenPom, Duke is 2, Houston 3, Iowa State, Florida, Tennessee, Kansas, Alabama is still 8, with 8 more games to go on this Saturday night. So that is a live update on the KenPom. And Ole Miss will be coming to town as they must not have played a great out of conference schedule. Surely
I
I
mean, they're
miss Ole Miss.
23 in the country.
Obviously, I missed them scrolling by. Okay.
Um,
You know why I missed them? I think
why?
this is sad on my part. I missed them because they're listed
It's
here as
Mississippi.
Mississippi. And I was
I've done
looking
the
for
same
Ole
thing.
Miss. Yeah, they're 24th. They're 24th, right ahead of UConn, Oregon, who beat Alabama at 26. So they're 24 in the KenPom right now. And then for Auburn this week, we'll be watching Janai Broome first. The word to come
Yeah,
out about Janai Broome.
I highly doubt
And
that he'll play on Tuesday.
yeah, the way Bruce was talking, it was going to be, some time missed, and now the MRI will just be how much time. But it's 14-2, Mississippi State coming to play 15-1 Auburn. State got beat tonight at home 95-90 in a classic game. Mark Pope's Kentucky team continues to be impressive. I thought that was going to be a real big challenge for Auburn at home, even before the Broome injury.
Yeah,
I think that only amps it up a little bit more. But again, it's back in Neville Arena, and that place is magic.
right. Absolutely. And I think we can probably clarify something up. JF said, don't really understand how a quad 1 road win tonight wouldn't bump Bama up some tonight if it's really updated live. And the way that KenPom works, they have like an adjusted offensive efficiency and adjusted defensive deficiency. So that's not necessarily taking the like quad 1. I don't know how much that will impact their strength of schedule and that kind of thing. But Dunaway, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's how many points you score per X amount of possessions, how many points you give up per X amount of possessions, unless what your opponent is right. There's strength of schedule, strength of record, strength of win,
Yeah,
but
it's a lot more. It's a lot more. Um,
analytics.
yeah, a lot more individual columns than
Yeah.
there is for the net, which really focuses on quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, quad 4. The net is what the NCAA tournament uses. Most college basketball coaches look at the Ken Palm when wanting to see strength of schedule, strength of record, that kind of thing. On Saturday, Auburn goes to Georgia. Georgia today beat Oklahoma. They just blasted Kentucky in Athens. So Georgia at home again. Man, do they ever leave Athens to play? I mean,
I
that's
don't
be
know.
like,
It seems
yes,
not.
another home game there for the 14-2 Dogs when Auburn comes to play next Saturday. Another early game, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 Central for Auburn, and then Alabama even earlier, 11 a.m. 12 p.m. Eastern in Kentucky, but 11 a.m. Bama body clock, Alabama and Kentucky, two top six teams, maybe two top five teams by the time they get to Rupp Arena next week. So I pick a week. The schedule is going to be tough in the SEC every week. No breathers. And I mean, just saw that today. I mean, Auburn's much better than South Carolina, and it was 66-63. But that's the day, man. That's another day in the SEC, life of the SEC.
Yep.
Nationally, Cooper Flag had 42, an ACC freshman record, and Duke beat a really good Notre Dame team. NFL playoffs tomorrow. Everyone who doesn't have an NFL team, cheer for my Buccaneers tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. And then we'll all be back together at 9 a.m. Eastern on the next round. But don't forget, Taylor and I do the basketball show podcast, 2 recorded ones every week. We'll tape one tomorrow, either before or after the Buccaneers game, and then we'll release it Monday morning for your drive-in. Sometimes you'd enjoy it Monday or Tuesday before tip-off. Then she'll be in Auburn, I'll be in Tuscaloosa. We'll cover the games. Follow us on social media for all the content there, and then we'll be right back on all these platforms right after the conclusion of both of those games. Got to wait till they both go final, and then we'll both jump on and wrap it up. And we'll do this all season long, home and away. So have your alerts set wherever you're watching us. This is where we'll be all year long. And then we do the basketball show again on Thursday night. That's ready for you on Friday morning, and then all day Saturday until the tips again. So that's what we do every week. Make it a routine. We'll do it for what is it? I think I looked at it 11 more weeks. And
Yeah. We're just getting
yeah,
started.
enjoy the grind. I'm so excited about it. We're having a blast doing it. You can tell about the smiles on our face, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing, this Sunday shows that we're doing will be mailbags. So if you have a question or a topic that you'd like us to discuss, it doesn't necessarily have to be a question, but just any sort of topic, send it to us on social media. You can just tweet and tag the next round. You can tag either of us. You can send us a DM, but what we record every Sunday will be a mailbag. So let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about.
Yeah, good information there. Thank you guys so much. And let's all keep winning and then maybe make it all the way to the Final Four again. That's my
Yep.
dream, man. Have Auburn and Alabama in the Final Four, opposite sides of the bracket, and see what happens, man. That would be a dream come true. But another fun day of SEC basketball. We're all praying for Janai Broom, hoping it's good news when he gets his MRI, and we'll continue to be full strength the rest of the season. All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being with
See
us.
y'all.